Okay, here we go. Good evening, everyone. Today is July 20th, 2021. As usual, in Oakland, most gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for yet another opportunity of prayer. We thank you, God, just for another chance to come humbly before your throne room of grace, oh God. I ask you, God, that you bless this conversation. I ask you, God, that you bless the family of our views as well. I ask you, God, that this information be beneficial to some and helpful to others, oh God. We ask all these things in the mighty and the master's name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Good evening, everyone. Another Tuesday, Marvin Bennett Jr. show. I want to give a born day shout out again to the lovely Elizabeth Caldwell, who celebrated on this weekend. My homeboy Bud, who did his thing down in Charlotte. Congratulations to Antoine, who graduated this year as well. To Shima Harris, the Princess of Praise and Worship, Marshetta Parker, who celebrated her birthday over the weekend. Tamara Blue, Pastor Young John, Co-Pastor John, Tina Turner, as well as a niece who celebrated her born day on today. My boy Aaron Farrell, happy born day, bro. Proud of you. Keep on doing what you was born and created to do. I want to say congratulations to Tanea Cooper and her husband, one of my classmates. Congratulations, who celebrated their marriage union on this past Saturday, July 17th. So congratulations to you guys. Welcome to the family, bro. We're happy to have you here. We're happy that you finally made it legit. And you guys keep on rocking, because you guys are a perfect example of what Black love should look like. I'm proud of you guys. With that being said, I want to give a heartfelt condolences to Denise Anthony and her husband, who lost his oldest son on this past week. You know, my prayers and condolences go out to you guys. Know that we love you and we're praying for you through this difficult time that you guys are going through. We're here for you. If you need anything, just reach out to us. As well as to my dear friend Catherine Cat, who lost her sister Halima. So, you know, my condolences to the Shannon family, the Word family, my Deliver Jesus is Coming Association family. We lost a true gem in Halima. But we thank you for your smile. We thank you for your being. We thank you for your essence. We just thank you for the woman of God that you were. And we're going to do everything that we can to support your daughter and make sure that your memory continues to live on. As well as I want to give all my Long Island family and my Jersey family my condolences. We lost a legend this weekend, and the B.I.Z. M.A.R.K.I.E., Mr. Biz Markie. Man, I got so many memories of watching Big, of actually seeing Biz, meeting Biz. Like, Biz was who he was on his records, was who he was in person. And it was like, he was just you couldn't be around Biz and not smile, man. So we thank you for all the memories. We thank you for all the sets that you did. Nobody could control the crowd. Now, I've seen countless DJs. I mean, countless DJs, but nobody could control the crowd like Biz did. And just, whether it was a black crowd, a white crowd, Mexican, it doesn't matter. He literally controlled the crowd with his turntables and rarely would touch the microphone and would rarely play any of his own songs. You know, until the people would go crazy, talk about, you got to play, you got what I need. They just waiting for that particular moment. But he wasn't big on playing his own records. So, man, you would definitely be missed. We thank you for sharing your gift with us. We thank you just for the great memories and the laughs over the years, man. You're a legend. And always will be in our eyes, bro. So rest in peace to Biz Markie. With all that being said, let me introduce tonight's guest. I have a young, lovely, gifted, and talented. She's an author, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself. But tonight we got Tiffany Mitchell on the show with us, the author of, I wrote it down, She's Unmoved. We will definitely put that information out there as well for you guys to be a part of that, so you can purchase a book. But Tiffany, go ahead and tell the people who you are.
Hey guys, so my name's Tiffany Mitchell. I wear many hats, but one of them is a published author, and I'm a mom. Also, I'm a tax preparer. I'm a business development representative. I'm a social media marketing specialist as well. I'm also a model and a public speaker and an influencer. Again, like I said, I have many, many hats. There's more, but my main thing is being a mom, a child of God, and I love writing. So being a published author.
Okay. All right. And what's She's Unmoved? Let's talk about that. What is the book about, or what does it pertain to?
Yes. This is my book. It's called She's Unmoved, and it's about the tales of my life. Um, Basically, it's a biography about my life, but it's a short biography. I'm doing series. The way it's laid out is totally different. There's no other biography like it. I laid it out almost like social media. Like I was talking earlier, we have the microwave society. Everybody wants it quick. A lot of people don't even like to read anymore. So I shortened it down so that everybody can read it. And I've been getting a lot of great responses from that. The layout is more so hashtags. So for instance, they'll have a passage, it's like short stories and poems, but it's about my life. So it shortens everything up to kind of give everybody a good look into what's going on, but still, because it's like in poetry form, it gives you the feeling behind what I'm writing about as well, which is something I definitely wanted to get across. And that's definitely the biggest response that I'm getting. The book, I've been through a lot of different things in life. So it talks about things such as being married and going through a divorce in ministry. It talks about becoming a mom. It talks about losing my parents at a young age. It talks about the struggles that I went through as a young child. It also talks about things such as dealing with molestation growing up as well. So it's a lot of different things that people don't like to speak upon, especially in the Black community, to Black families. Those are things that I touched on. I exposed those things by exposing myself, but I also was able to help other people. And it also helped set me free from a lot of things in life as well. Just actually writing it and putting it out for others to actually know, hey, this actually happened. So yeah, I think it's something great for everybody to read. Men, women, children, old folks, everybody.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm like I said, and I will be purchasing my copy myself as soon as we finish the show. I was hoping that I had a chance to get it and purchase it before the week before you got on, because I had a lot of things going on beyond my control this week. But I'm gonna definitely purchase it this afternoon as soon as we wrap up, so that I could jump into it. I seen you on the other show, and I just seen how the host was just like gushing. She was saying how she really wasn't in the poems, but it was just like a page turner. She didn't want to stop reading it. So I think that's a beautiful thing. And I really wanted people to support you in what it is that you're trying to do as far as your ministry and sharing your story. And I publicly want to thank you for sharing your story, because like we were talking a little bit before we came on live, that's one of the things that, when God give us certain things and give us a call and we answer that call, it's not necessarily where anybody else has to understand that call but you. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't understand that what it takes for me, it might take a little bit more for you. That's why I get tired of hearing church folks say, well, it don't take all of that. No, it just don't take all of that for you. But for me to get where I'm trying to go and to meet with people, I'm trying to please God, it takes all of that for me.
Yes.
So I don't care. I don't really care about your perspective. No disrespect, but I know what God told me to do. And half of the time when we put our lives in front of people, for me personally, it was like God told me I was to be his transparent prophet. And that means being very, very vulnerable. And sometimes as regular church members, as daily Christians, we don't necessarily go around telling our testimony every single day to our co-workers or to the people in our church with us. They don't know anything about us. But for you to take off that mask and vulnerably put yourself on display and share your story, I commend you for that. And I want you to know that I respect that and I appreciate that about you. If nobody else tells you that, I do appreciate that, because, you said you talked about some heavy stuff. I know that there's a chapter in there about your mom, losing your mom, molestation, different things that you've encountered over the year. Those are not easy things to confront or to talk about. But we don't realize by us actually talking about it and us confronting those things, that is a part of the healing process. That is necessary for us to get to where it is that we need to be. we have to confront those things that we don't want to confront.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
So tell the people why and what made Tiffany become an author.
Well, honestly, I want to say, so I always felt like I wanted to, like, growing up, I was like into plays and different things like that. And I didn't really have many friends growing up. My circle was always very small, especially because of things that I went through in life. I didn't really think people will understand. It was almost like a shame was covering me. So I kept my circle very small. But I always felt like I wanted to get my story out. And, you know, I would have different like fantasies about like movies, different things like that. But it really came about once I went through my divorce. You know, I was in a relationship for over 10 years. So it was like after my divorce, it was a time of me finding myself. And it actually started off as just a journal with like, because a lot of things started coming back to me. Like after I got divorced, it's like things that I thought, you know, was not even a thought anymore. And if you push it in the back of the closet, it was all coming all at one time. And my way of dealing with it was writing about it. I didn't even know there were a lot of feelings behind things I was writing about. And then, you know, as I'm writing, like God started opening up doors, like all of a sudden different ministries, they would want me to come and speak. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what they want me to speak about. They'd be like, whatever God puts on your heart. And then God would give me something, I'll just start writing. And it would be laid out in like a poetry or short story form. And I'm like, okay. And I would read it and like people would be like bawling and people come back and just, you know, thank me. And they're like, you need to continue to tell your story. And it's like, yeah, you know, you keep hearing it. But until God gives you a release for something, you can't move. So it was like, once he gave a release, I looked down, it was like, once I gathered everything, it was already written. Like literally it was already written. And it was like, okay, Lord, now what? Find a publisher. Went out, found me a publisher, and it just was a match, and it just took off from there.
Okay. All right. Shout out to Shashiba too, and everybody else that's already on watching this live. If you want to, I would greatly appreciate if you guys would share this to your page so that your friends can see it as well. And you, as usual, feel free to leave your comments or your questions in the comments section, and we'll try to get to them while we're doing the show here. Okay. Let's see. All right. So this is one of the questions that I have for you. Why is it that the viewers should purchase your particular book?
Well, I think the viewers should purchase it because, to be honest, it's something in there that could relate and help everybody. Whether you're in a relationship, there's things in this book that can help you regarding your relationship. Whether you're going through a divorce, there's things in this book that can help you. If you're someone who's possibly dealing with depression or even demons from your past, such as things as, you know, losing your parents. You know, mine, I didn't just lose them because, you know, just natural causes. It was other things involved, such as, you know, drugs, alcohol, different things of that nature that had to do with losing them. So based off of those things that they went through, it affected my life. So there's different things that people were afraid to speak about. So things that you're afraid to talk to, a lot of people, especially in ministry, you're afraid to go speak to people about it because you don't know how can I say, what the reaction might be, because you're supposed to be walking in faith. You shouldn't be walking around sad, depressed, or, you know, being daunted with things from your past. But you have to understand, you have to get delivered from these things. Like if you have a scar, you have to heal from it. If you don't treat your wound, you know, correctly, it can get infected. You know, it could leave a nasty, ugly scar just because you didn't take the process the correct way of, you know, making sure your scar was okay, you know, your wound was okay. So that's just basically what it was. It was like God, you know, putting the ointment on my scar to make sure that I heal properly. So it's the same way, like, hey guys, a lot of things people were afraid to speak about, it's in here. I got you. And it actually opened up other people to release things that they never told anybody. And you'd be shocked. A lot of them were males that actually went through things such as molestation, or moms or dads addicted, you know, to drugs, or those who were adopted, because at one point I was a ward of the state. You know, there's different things of that nature, dealing with being moved around from school to school, family to family. So there's a lot of things in this book that could definitely help people, especially women. When you're looking at yourself, you're trying to find yourself, you have low self-esteem, there's things in this book that could definitely help you. I exposed myself in the things that I had low self-esteem about, and how God had to come and help deliver me. even instances where I didn't know how to tell people that I love them or to be affectionate. It was something I was afraid of, something I never really was taught because of circumstances in my life. So it even speaks about that. So there's a lot of things that can help people break through, I feel like, in my book.
Absolutely. I like that. I like that. Actually, we have a viewer, and shout out to Rochelle. Thanks for tuning in tonight, Rochelle. But we have one of my top viewers. She views like every week. She's been faithful. She recently lost her mom a couple of months ago. How would you? I know everybody's journey and everybody's path is different, but how did you cope with the loss of your mom?
To be honest, it's still something that I cope with today. I tell people, when you lose your parents, it's not, you know how people say, oh, you know, it gets better. I'm gonna be honest with you. It doesn't always get better, but you do learn how to cope with it. There's different things that pop up in your life that, you know, actually remind you a lot. Like, for instance, I tell people, you know, there's things such as like once I had my son, you know, my mom wasn't there for that. So that was like a point, like certain events like that, you get married, you have children, you know, you might graduate school, different things of that nature, buy your first house, your first car, or even when you're going through relationship issues, you know, most of the time you go run to your parents and go talk to them about it. So these are things that remind you, you know, of your parents. But what I just try to tell people is be thankful for the time that God did give you with them and remember those times. You understand? So that's what helps me. I say, you know, God, well, thank you for the time you did give me with my mom and my dad. You know, thank you for these memories that I do have of them. You know, thank you for certain traits you might notice in yourself you get from your parents. And, you know, like, God, thank you, you know, thank you for their looks, you know, thank you for their smarts, you know, different things of that nature. You might even look at your kids and see different things from your parents and your kids. But I just tell everybody, just keep doing things that you would say, hey, your parents will be proud of you. And you never could be too old to make your parents proud of you. I don't care. Because, like, for instance, I'm a mom. I don't care. My son could be 40 something. The littlest thing he do, thank you, baby. I'm so proud of you. So I tell everybody, you know, just keep your parents in mind, continue to try to make them proud, and remember the time that God did give you with them and count that as a blessing. And share those moments. Don't, you know, hide them, speak about them, laugh about the good times, you know, look at pictures if you have them, talk to family members about old stories. I love talking to family where they tell me stuff about when my mom or my dad was younger. Those things, it puts a smile on your face and it does help it get easier, but there's always going to be pain.
Yeah. There are some voids that can't be filled, you know, and that's even scripture. Like some things is just exactly what it is. That's why I believe in something that you said that's very powerful. Is it's important to hold on to those memories, the good times, the bad times, all of it, because you can't get those things back. You know, I'm a firm believer, and the older that I get, I'm a firm believer that life really consists of two things to me outside of spirituality, and that's pictures and memories. Because you can have all the education in the world, you can have all the doctors in the world, but if you get Alzheimer's, what does that mean? And it's not to negate everything that you accomplish, but if you can't remember everything that you've ever learned, that would be a scary thing to me. So I think it's very important that we hold on to the memories that we can, as well as take as many pictures and photos as we can. You know, when I was married, it was like, oh my God, let's take a picture, let's take a picture. No, I don't want to take no picture. Like, oh my God, like I'm tired of pictures. But now, the older I get, I'm just more appreciative of pictures because sometimes that's all you have to go by. Yeah. But then sometimes you look at a picture and you can't remember the memory, but you're looking at that picture like, man, like I was happy this day. I really wonder what was like. I've never seen myself look like that, or you know, different things. So I think that's real powerful. Let's see. Okay, and then before we get off the book, there, like I told you, you did something different. I believe all the chapters are hashtags.
Yes.
Because you wanted to do it in poem form and keep people's attention span, so to speak. So you did hashtags. And one hashtag that I heard throughout the book in the previous interview that you did that struck my attention was "I would marry me." What is that? What is that particular? What is that concept? What is that idea? Where does that come from?
Yeah, so basically what it is, the chapter reflected on a lot of insecurities that I had along the way growing up, becoming into a woman. And finally, one day I just looked and I'm like, well, who am I that he says I am? And am I reflecting that? And I really had to stop and look at myself and look at even different things. Like, for instance, that my husband might have said to me before, or a family member or a close friend, because you have to understand those kind of people. I mean, sometimes things that they say hurt, but let's be honest, they're probably being honest about those feelings and how they feel because they're on the outside looking in. And it actually helps you to reflect on yourself. And it's like, okay, I had to go through and say, okay, well, Tiffany, make a list of your characteristics, your traits, what do you like about yourself? What don't you like about yourself? What do you need to adjust? And it's like, if I can't do those things, how can I expect somebody to want to be with me? So even going through my divorce, there were a lot of things that I looked at that, okay, Tiff, you need to correct this before you go into another relationship. It was this area, this area, this area. It wasn't all your ex-husband. You had these issues you need to correct as well. And it's like, okay, once these things are addressed, you can look in the mirror with confidence to say, okay, I would marry me. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't look in the mirror and say to yourself, honestly, with a pure heart, I would marry me, then you need to go back and evaluate some stuff. Because if you don't want to be around yourself, ain't nobody else trying to be around you. And that's just facts. I mean, if you don't like yourself, 9 out of 10 other people ain't going to want to deal with you like that either.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that I think that's an interesting chapter. I can't wait to read that because I like to think, I will marry me too. Now I will pray for whoever it is that married me because
it's
I
like,
know
would
it's
you
not going to
deal
be
with
easy.
the stuff that you be doing? If you was
Exactly.
on would you deal with it? No.
I know I could be a handful. That's why I'm single again. Like, you know what I mean? Happily single. Like, people, listen, man, I'm good on that right now. That's not my focus. You know what I mean? I've been there and did that. And I don't take anything away from marriage. I still believe in marriage. I believe marriage is a beautiful thing if done the right way and have some of those real conversations. I believe that marriage could actually be a beautiful thing. But for me, I know it would take a special God-fearing woman to deal with me. I can honestly admit I know that I am quite a bit to deal with. So I would pray for her. Yeah, I would pray for her because you're gonna get a good package, but it's gonna come with a lot of stuff too. I come with a lot. I'm moody. I'm opinionated. I go through a lot of different phases, but if it's meant to be, God will provide.
Yep.
He always provides. And that's one thing I'm a firm believer in. You can't be God given. So if it's meant to be, he'll lead me that way. But I'm not rushing. Okay. But I like that. Because like I said, I think that what you mentioned about that I would marry me is I think what that does is it brings a conversation that I don't feel like a lot of people really like to have, which is having a real conversation with me. We talked about before we came on live, in my opinion, there are far too many people, particularly Christians, that say, well, this is just the way I am. I ain't changing nothing. They can't take it like this is, and they can hit the road jack because God know me and he wouldn't have made me this way and all that did. Whereas I look at it in Christianity, if you are a true Christian, it has nothing at all to do with a title, but if you are somebody that repented of your sins and say that you want to live a life that's pleasing to God, according to his will for your life, then guess what? You're going to have to change. You're going to evolve. That's just part of the process. No one should ever stay the same. So yeah,
yes.
We got to have those real conversations. I can honestly admit, like when I look back, when you talk about divorce, when I look back on the days that I was married, there were plenty of times when I could honestly say to myself, you really should have had shut the hell up. Like it was not important for you to get your point across. You see what I'm saying? Like you got to learn how to pick your battles. But at that particular stage of my life, no, I'm not having that conversation with myself because I'm Marv. Like, why should I have to change? It is what it is. Take me as is. It's just like warranty. Like, take me as is. You can't deal with that. But I think a lot of us, we have to have those conversations. Like, you know what, I can be pretty moody. I can be kind of quick to jump to conclusions. I say one thing I always say that's kind of chauvinistic, but I do say this about women a lot. It's like, you know, being just women, it's like you guys, you have a tendency of reading stuff that's not there. You know what I'm saying? You have all these conversations in your head. You read one thing
Whole
and
bunch of
you read it
downloads.
too
Press
far into it.
screens up.
Yeah. How are you reading something that's not even it? That page is blank. There's nothing on that page. So why are you coming at me with animosity because based off of what you're thinking when we could just have a conversation and clear the air? So I think that's a real powerful thing. All right, so before I get to the meat and bread, you talked about being married and you talked about being divorced in ministry, and that's something that you know I don't believe that any of us sign up for. Like, yeah, I want to be divorced and you know what I mean, and still be active in ministry. How has that struggle been for you, or if a struggle at all?
To be honest, so like before I got married and then when I got married, we were serving in the ministry, honestly, 7 days a week. There was no days off. We was in a church, we were serving, you know, any helps ministry, whether it's outreach, you know, helps ministry, kids church, everything, picking up people from around the community 7 days a week. Did everything the right way, got married, did everything the right way. And then one day, you know, my husband, 'cause I'm thinking this of everything, you know, whatever, but we just had it was almost like it was kind of being forced almost in a way, because there were a lot of key components that a marriage should have had that we just definitely didn't have. And it was like, you know, everyone was there rooting for us and we're going through the process while we were married. But then it's like, once things started to crumble, it's like, where is everybody? You know, one day he comes home and he's like, you know, I don't know if you know, I'm ready to be a husband or a father. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's too late. We got a baby now. We've been married for years. Like, what you mean? You don't know. He starts saying things, you know, I don't know if you're the wife that God has for me. You know, it was almost like he was going through a midlife crisis, like, to be honest. And it was like, okay, you know, but it's just something that I personally, you know, after a year of hearing that as a woman, naturally, I don't care how much, you know, faith you could say you have, how much you serve in the church, how much you love God. Just being a human being, you can only take but so much. Like, literally, I felt like I held on for an entire year fighting for my marriage. And then it's like, once I finally got to the point where, you know, like, no, I'm good, that's when he decided to fight to want his marriage. But by then, you know how they say, like, a woman, once that's like, you know, so you don't want to get a woman to a point where she's like, okay, I'm done, because once we get to that point, because we're going to fight, you know, we're going to fight for what's ours. And it's like, once we get to that point, it's like almost kind of no turning back from there. And it's like, once we got through that, I felt like the support wasn't there when we were going through our divorce. It was just kind of like, you know, everything was all good when we were serving 100%, when we looked the part, you know, because they consider us a power couple in the church. Yeah. You know, we laying hands on people, casting out devils, seeing legs growing out, people getting healed. You know what I'm saying? Laying hands, people, they speaking in tongues, different things like that. And it's like, so they looked at us as a power couple. But it's like, okay, once we weren't able to, I feel like, help proceed with their agenda because we were going through a storm, the support started to taper off. And then it was just like, almost like a shame to like go to church. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you done went through this. Okay, you and your husband going through a divorce, and maybe you got divorced, and maybe he brought a young lady to the church, or, you know, you got this minister, this pastor talking about it. You know, you got this person talking about it. And now, you know, you coming in church and it's kind of like, okay, but what happened? I met my son's parents, you know, were some of the pastors, went through a divorce. Where are they? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, at that time, I feel like that's when ministry is supposed to step up, you know, especially the ones that were helping to lead you and guide you in the beginning. When you're going through a storm, that's when they're supposed to be there even more, not when times appear to look good. You know, and I feel like because that support wasn't there, a lot of things transpired that shouldn't even had to transpire, you know, going through the situation. But it's definitely hard, you know, you don't want to talk about that. And they look at it like you're not supposed to get divorced if you're a Christian. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, oh, and then it's like, how do you even move on when you're in ministry to someone else? Because all eyes are on you. Any little thing that you do is being critiqued now at this point. You know, then it's like, oh, well, who's to blame? Everybody's trying to find somebody to blame. Oh, she must have did something, or he must have did something. It can't be, oh, hey, we got together young, we just started to grow apart, the support just wasn't there, we're learning, we don't really know the true basics of marriage. You understand what I'm saying? It was like, because I feel like we got married in ministry and how heavy we were in ministry, we didn't have time to focus on our marriage. Everything was about ministry. So when he's supposed to be learning how to be a husband and they should be teaching him how to be a husband and protect his wife, it was more so, nah, get out on the streets, put these flyers out, do this. So now he has his pregnant wife out at 3:00 in the morning in the hood, passing out flyers so that we can get people from the inner city to come to the church. But hey, pastor, you wouldn't have your wife out there. So why would you tell him to have his wife out there? Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like, because he wants to, a lot of people look at their pastor as God and they're not. And that's the thing too. It's like, are you pleasing God or are you pleasing man? You still have to understand your pastor is still a man. They're still in the flesh. They might tell you to do something that necessarily God might not be instructing you to do. They have a mission. So they're recruiting you saying, hey, we need your help. Get out there, do this. Okay. That's the mission God laid upon you. I'm here to put all hands to the plow, but not at the expense of my home. Because it's God first, me as the head, my wife, and then my children. So if I'm not putting my wife, you know what I'm saying? My house is my first ministry, not the church. And that's what was mixed up. The church was his first ministry instead of his house. And that's what caused everything to happen the way it did. And now, honestly, since the divorce, I don't even have the support like I had from my church family. And it hurts because you're like, 7 days a week for years, I'm serving, and it makes you look back at God, like, okay, I did everything the right way. Like, we didn't live together before we got married. We lived separate. We stopped having sex. We did everything the right way, serving, doing everything you asked us to do, helping other people when they going through storms, putting our own storms to the back burner. Okay, God, I'm doing all this, and then now you have me going through this. It was like, okay, I just didn't understand it. But honestly, I just feel like something beautiful was brought out of it. But I'm gonna be honest, even to today, it's not even something that, you know, it's almost like you disappear, like you don't exist once you start going through certain things and you serving like that in the church, because you shouldn't be going through a divorce, like I said. Point blank, period. Oh, then it's like, oh, what happened? Did he cheat? Did she cheat? Nobody cheated. It wasn't that. It's just the foundation was not strong. The foundation wasn't right. It just wasn't, you know. So you can't plant a flower on concrete. And that's just, I feel like, how it was.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's sad to me because I know men of God, women of God, personally, where I see them suffer because of that. Because of what, in my opinion, is having the wrong priorities. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, God is first. You know, a lot of people now, we got the saying in the hood now, family first and all that did. It sounds good, but I don't like that saying because family is not first to me. God is first. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then it took me years to get there, but then I realized after God, then it's me. Because if I don't work on myself and I'm not good enough to bring myself to the table, what good am I as a husband? What good am I as a father? What good am I as a family man, let alone a minister?
That part, yes.
So I got to make sure I take care of myself, that I can be all those things that God will want me to be. And one of the beautiful things that I thought you said, you used that word, beautiful, and I was waiting to hear it, because even in my process, I experienced everything that you just said. You know what I mean? I remember at the church that I was at the same time, that we were at the same time when we got separated and got divorced. You know, I remember telling the pastor, because we was doing counseling and all that stuff. Yep. I remember telling the pastor, I was like, look, if this thing don't work out, then I'm out. You know what I mean? I thank you for trying. I thank you for your support and all that did, but I'm out. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And then things didn't work out. I thought I was on my way out the door. But I got involved even more in the ministry at that particular time because I was being obedient to God and what God was telling me to do. So I'm like, look, God, that's an uncomfortable thing to be going ahead, sitting in her in the same sanctuary with her, and she done moved on. Now she bringing a new dude to church, everything else, and the gay, and it was like it wasn't where it was uncomfortable for me because by this point I was not only comfortable in who I am, but I was comfortable with who I am in God. You see what I'm saying? And that's the thing that I love about it, because like you say, when people that you thought should be there, I can't stress it enough. I tell people all the time, it is one of the most worst feelings in this world, or one of the most painful feelings in the world in spirituality, when God removed the scales from your eyes.
Yeah.
That's the way I'd like to describe it. When God removed the scale from your eyes, like the blind man. You know what I mean? When God removed the scale from your eyes and you start to see things for what they really are, and people for who they really are and not what you want them to be, that can be a painful thing. You said that you would never leave me. You said that we was friends to the end. You said this, you said that did. But now that things change, like you say, you supposedly got a strong marriage ministry. Why are there so many divorces in the church? You see what I'm saying? And where are the people to help us when we going through? You see what I'm saying? But then everybody wanna just pray for them. I ain't gonna ask no questions. And then everybody draw their own assumptions. Who did what? And that's another thing that's so realistic of me, but I think it's totally valid, because I have rarely ever seen a woman that's divorced and she get asked, what did she do?
Yeah.
Every man that's divorced, he always get asked, what did you do, man?
What he do?
It always has to be our fault.
What he do?
It's like, what did I didn't do anything. You know what I mean? We divorced though. I mean, it's reality. For me personally, I don't believe in divorce. I'm one of those type church people. I don't necessarily believe in divorce, because, and then which I want to kind of tie that into where we're going, because, you know, even with the chapter, I would marry me. It's like with me, like I said, it would take a lot for me to get remarried, for the simple fact, the way I view marriage, not according to my eyes, but the way I think God sees marriage. You know what I mean? I don't believe that God intended marriage. I don't believe that God ever intended for divorce. I don't believe that that was a part of his plan. He created the union of marriage, but I feel like man came up with divorce because they didn't want to live up to all the attributes, or we need a get out clause, so to speak. And because we are the religious people at this particular time, what we say go. So you know what I mean? So therefore now we're going to say that this is justifiable for marriage if this happens, if this occurs, and all that did. But that's what man came up with, not what God came up with. And then the second part for me, which is tricky, and I'll let you tell me your view on it, but I look at it as when you stand before God, right? You make these vows before God, right? How is it that I could possibly do the same thing all over again to the same God, and this person is still walking around in the earth living? It's one thing if the person done passed on, so to speak, and all that did, but 9 times out of 10, especially these days, because I think that's one of the things that I don't like about marriages. I don't think people take marriage serious enough, in my opinion. I believe that marriage is just like buying a car nowadays. I try it out for 2 or 3 years, and if it ain't, I'll trade it in and get me a new one and see how that one rides. You know what I mean? We don't look at it as like a lifelong commitment that we're making before God Almighty. And it's like, for me personally, people, you know, I know preachers that are on their second marriage, third marriage, you know what I mean, things of that nature there. So I understand that they're for it. But for me, I still have not heard a valid answer. For me is, how can you make those same vows again with somebody else that's still walking and living in this earth? When you said to death do us part, in sickness and in health, in good and in bad. You know what I mean? So I make that vow again. If the first person come to their senses and realize they lost a gold mine, now what am I supposed to do? Drop this marriage and go back to that one because I made that vow before God first? Like, you see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
It's tricky for me. So what's your take on second marriages and how that whole thing?
I definitely understand what you're saying. I know they even speak about that in the Bible as well. But to be honest, I just kind of look at things like there's God's permissible and then there's God's perfect will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I kind of honestly just break things down. Like, I feel like it was God's perfect will once you make those vows for you to stay inside of your marriage and allow God to do his work. I think that was God's perfect will. God's permissible will was allowing us to get divorced because God allows us to make decisions and choices. We have something called free will. And I just feel like it's something that maybe God has to be a heart change within yourself. And that's something that only God honestly can do within you. I feel like over the years, like I said, because we were together for over 10 years, I feel like everything was exhausted. Every option was tried, everything. But it's like when we got together, we were younger. I feel like when we did get married, a lot of that, because we just were coming into ministry in the beginning, I feel like a lot of that was so much forced. And you see that in the church a lot. You see young couples together, they're not married. Everybody's forcing you to get married, get married, get married. Y'all need to get married. But how do you know if this is really the person that God has for me? Because we look cute together, because we've been together for a couple years, or because it's like, okay, y'all together, we don't want y'all to sin, so y'all need to get married because you have to look the part. You understand what I'm saying? And I feel like that's what happened to us. We were very young. And we just got into ministry. And you know how it is when you first get into ministry, it's like kid in a candy store. You're so zealous for God and everything. And it's like, you just want to do everything right. You want to make God happy. You want to learn more about him. And then you got these other people who you feel like are so connected to God. You see them perform various acts, that God performed various acts through them. They know the word from front to back, you're learning everything from them. So it's like you honestly take their word almost as gospel, when they're telling you things, because you don't really know, you're learning. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's kind of what pushed it off. You got prophet bucket mouth and prophet this over here, tell a lie. Everybody got something that they want to say. Everybody's a prophet. Everybody want to tell you, well, God said this and God said that, and y'all gonna get married. I seen it. God said y'all gonna be married. And it's like, you don't really know. You're so young. You're coming and say things to God. You just want to do what's right. Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of like how it was. It was like, okay, we got in the ministry. And then it's like, we never addressed all the issues we had. Before we got married, there was a whole bunch of issues and stuff that we had. And then it's like, well, then we went off and, got saved and, we're trying to live right. But you know how it is, especially young men, early 20s, you coming out, he messing around with several different women, different things like that. God's breaking things off of him. So it was almost like a way for him, like, well, okay, what's the remedy to get me to stop messing around with all these women? Let me get married to her. She's a stable one. She's the one that's been here for a while. I do love her. She's here. I brought her from New Jersey. We're in Florida now. Everybody's saying she's supposed to be my wife. I want to live right according to God. So let me go get her a ring. And it was like almost overnight, the proposal was gunshot. The wedding was gunshot. Everything was just like so rushed. And it was just like, okay. And then boom, straight off in the ministry. There was no time to even really learn the basics. We didn't have the premarital counseling like we should have had. Mm-hmm. So we didn't learn the real basics. It's not like we both had good examples of how marriage should be. My parents, honestly, truly were never married. And then I seen things that they went through. So, I didn't really have the basis. His mom, married his stepdad, but before then, there were other relationships. So he didn't really know. He had a good example, of his stepdad, but then he also had his dad who's been married about 3-4 times, so, and then on top of that, he was dealing with depression and, spirits transfer. And I tell everybody that it's real. I never dealt with depression until after I started being with my husband. Then boom, depression hit me like a thief in the night out of nowhere. And there were different panic attacks, different things that I'm battling with. So now it's the battlefield of your mind at the same time. And it's like, you don't really know what voice is what in the beginning. You're learning, you know what I mean? So I think that's what sparked his whole midlife crisis, I would say, to where he was saying, hey, I don't know if you really are the wife that God has for me, if I'm ready to be a father, husband, because he was forced, basically, I would say, not like somebody held a gun to his head, but him just wanting to do the right thing, you know,
Forced
and it's
by
like everybody's saying
circumstances
pastor
around
is
him.
telling you
Yeah.
exactly, you know, so it's like you just run off and do that. We didn't have time to even focus on ourselves. I mean, we didn't even really have a honeymoon or nothing. We just was serving full time, whatever the pastors say, let's go do it, boom, 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 every single day. We didn't even, they had to tell us to hold hands. They had to tell us to be affectionate to each other. They had to tell him to take me out on dates. Like, they had to tell him to put me on a allowance, even though I was working too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, make sure your wife gets her hairs and nails done. That's something a husband's supposed to make sure. So it's like everything was kind of like forced in textbook. And it's like, he's looking back and he's like, well, something isn't right. And that's why I don't blame him. He's looking back and he's like, something isn't right. This is not how it should be. And he was right. Something wasn't right. It wasn't how it should be, but we didn't have the right guidance either. And it's like, at this point, you know, it's like, I just honestly chuck it up. So, okay, we both were young. I feel like God allowed us to get married. God allowed us to get divorced because we have free will. Was it his perfect will for us to be divorced? No, because I believe God can do anything. But I just feel like now at this point, going in, my life now is God's permissible will. I don't feel like everything is God's perfect will. God can get my life to where I could say I'm happy, I'm proud of certain things, but no, certain things since my divorce has been his permissible, not his perfect. So I completely understand what you're saying.
I could absolutely respect that because, again, no, I like you, Tiffany. You're real. I like that. One of the viewers, Walt, shout out to Walt. What's good, Walt? Walt says, does that mean one of the parties stopped living in God's will, or is it something God ordained?
I don't feel like we stopped living in God's will. I just feel like we were both misguided. I feel like we're both young and just misguided. And I feel like the foundation, like I said before, just wasn't there. And you can't build something solid on a weak foundation. And the foundation was definitely weak because if it was strong, it wouldn't have crumbled the way that it did. Like, you know, no, it definitely wouldn't have. But like I said, we didn't have the right examples. We didn't have the right support like we should have had. We didn't have the right knowledge that we should have had as well. And that's why I'm saying ignorance can definitely kill you. You know, my people perished for a lack of knowledge. We didn't have the knowledge that we needed in order to build the strong foundation. And it was like we were helping others to build strong foundations, but we weren't focusing on our own household like we should have. And then at the same time, that's why I said, take care of yourself before you get in a marriage, because he's fighting his own demons, trying to fix himself. I'm fighting my own demons from stuff in the past, trying to fix myself and even figure out who I am and be, you know, confident in myself without feeling like I need to have a man or, you know, anything of that nature. It's like, it just wasn't there. My foundation separately wasn't good. His wasn't good separately. And our foundation together just wasn't good. And I feel like that if we would have took our time and we would have done things the right way, then possibly, you know, we probably wouldn't be divorced today. But I just feel like even again, like now you say, you know how you say the person come back around, or if they come to his senses, he did come to his senses. But by then it was too late. You know, I became a totally different person. Like I told you, going through a divorce is like a death. Like you lose a whole part of yourself. And because we got together when we were so young, it was honestly me finding myself and what I even like and who I really am after him. And I realized I'm not the person that I was when I was with him. I was making myself be a certain person to be with him. And I didn't realize that until afterwards. So that's why I said, you said people just treat getting married. Let me try this out for a while. I feel like maybe we weren't even really supposed to ever even really get married. But if those things were addressed, we would have known that in the beginning. And, you know, thank God I got a beautiful blessing out of it. My son, you know, I wouldn't change that for the world. And, you know, even us, I feel like, you know, even us getting together, we found God together. And I just feel like maybe that was what was supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because we both wouldn't even found God at the time that we did and had that support with each other to keep going and serving God and giving up the things of the past, you know? So honestly, I feel like God got through to us the way he needed to get through to us so that we can, you know, go to heaven when we leave this earth, you know, one day. So I feel like that. And I mean, we have a very good relationship as co-parents, you know, for my son. And it's mainly because we both grew stronger in the things of God personally, not just for show, but an internal change to where we can even pray together. We could pray for things for my son. You know, we speak faith over each other, and you don't have to worry about if he's in a relationship or if I'm in a relationship and anything being said or transpired that shouldn't, because our respect for God. So there's never any inappropriate conversation or anything. And that's something a lot of people can't even attest to. A lot of people say, oh, wow, the relationship you have with your son's mom, or the relationship you have with your, you know, your son's dad. You heard me say your son's mom, son's dad. It's not baby mama, baby daddy. We never refer to each other as that. That's disrespectful. We just don't refer to each other as that. And I feel like that's all God. And I feel like one day he'll be the perfect man for the right woman. I know that the things that he's learned since being divorced from me, he'll be a good husband to somebody one day. But at the time, he wasn't able to be the husband that I needed for me at that time. And I feel like the things I've learned, I properly know how to be a good wife to somebody. You know, one of the things, you know, people say, if my husband was to describe me in a relationship, when we were together to somebody, the person I'm with now would say, that's not her. She's very affectionate. She's very, you know, she always lifts me up. She always do these things, because you can be the right person for the right person. And that's just how I feel. I just feel like a lot of times people get married, and when you go through divorce, because maybe that person just wasn't who God had assigned for you to actually get married to. Maybe that was his permissible will. Maybe your perfect will is the husband that you meet 5 years from now. But, you know, a lot of times we jump the gun and do things before God say do it.
Absolutely. There you go. And like you said earlier, that goes back to that free will. But you made a good point, which is the point that I was making earlier. With the beauty that I find, I like to find beauty in brokenness. That's the way I like to describe it. And one thing that divorce has told me, and it's not to say that you can't be faithful, committed, and good in ministry as a marriage, but again, when those scales came off and I started to see not her just for who she is and other people for who she is, so-called friends, so-called leaders, and all that kind of things there. And what it did was, I found that the beautiful thing that came out of all of that pain to me was it grew my faith. I have a much stronger faith in God, and I have a much stronger relationship with my creator, which helps me take on anything. You know what I mean? There's nothing that's too hard for God. I take that scripture literally. And one thing I try to stress to people is that God is not getting off the throne, coming down here to perform any miracles. He's going to use human beings like me and you to do it. But we have to be clean vessels to allow him to operate through us. And that is the key that we need to do. And I can honestly admit, at one point in my time, it probably was too late, like you say, especially with women. When a woman done, she's done. But it's like, I'm trying to work on my marriage, and it's like, no. And one of the things that happened to me personally was, I never forget when we first got married and was in ministry. I remember praying a prayer that it always plays in the back of my mind. And I wonder, was that a part of it? Because there were points in my time where I really didn't care about my marriage. If I be quite honest, there was times that I was not. I know I wasn't a great husband, but there were times where I was a good husband. There was a time where I was a good, friend, things of that nature there. And one of the things that I remember praying was, God, when I became ordained, one of the things that I prayed was, God, if anything comes in my life that I place above you, I want you to remove it from me. And I've always wondered, like, okay, at some point in time, did I start to put my marriage before my relationship with God? And if so, all he did was prove himself to be faithful and true and honor my prayer. Because if anything else, like I say, I've never been so strong, I've never been so empowered spiritually than I am now. And I know that without my divorce, I would have never been who I am in God now. Yeah. So I absolutely thank him for it. You know what I mean? Because I thought I got to walk around with my head down. And no, I still am who I am. And like you said, the solid people, the stand-up people, like my bros and stuff that was at the church that I was going to at that particular time, some of them became my day ones. I love them just like I love my biological brother, because they didn't talk about it. They showed me, hey, nah, bro, you still my bro. Like, I don't care what's going on and all that. Like, I ain't about to bandage you. Some of my sisters the same way. So you get to. it's painful, but you get to see, you get to meet real people and create new memories and opportunities, as well as have to overcoming that pain.
Mhm.
But there's always joy in the morning, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Amen.
You know. All right, so we're gonna get ready to wrap up now. I definitely want to have you back on. Hopefully
Definitely.
we can work something out, because I really enjoyed this conversation. But before we go, I wanted to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that the Lord laid on your heart that you want to share with the people, that you want to share with a viewer that's out there?
Yes. What I would like to share with everybody is tell your truth. Don't be afraid to tell your truth. There's so much deliverance in doing so. And you don't even understand how telling your truth not only could set you free, but set others free as well. Because a lot of things happen in secrecy, and that's where the enemy gets his strength. And you don't want to give him any more empowerment than what he already has. Don't give him no access to you. Tell your truth. Reveal it. Be open. Be transparent, because there's so much freedom in that. There's so much freedom in being transparent. You might lose, people along the way, but those people were supposed to be removed. If they removed themselves, they were supposed to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
And just honestly, give your life to Christ if you haven't. All you gotta do is ask him into your heart, believe that Jesus Christ, came, died on the cross and rose again. And he came to deliver you from your sins, and you'll have eternal life with Christ. And all you gotta do is ask them and believe. It's honestly is that simple. It's a free gift. It's not something that you can do to earn your salvation. Don't let anybody trick you into believing that. Mm-hmm. It's honestly, it's a faith thing. And that's exactly what it is. Just believe in the cross.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, Tiffany, let me say you have a new friend. I look forward to conversating again. I wish you much success. You're very beautiful. You're attractive.
Thank you.
You don't seem crazy. You know what I mean? You don't seem like you're bipolar, all that there. My prayer for you is that God will send you that better half, if it's according to his perfect will for Tiffany's life. You know what I mean? And know that you are, like I said, you have a new friend. And I definitely will be in contact, because I definitely want to schedule you to maybe be on next month or sometime in September, where I'll be done had the book, I'll be done purchased the book, I'll be done read the book, and we can talk more about the book, and we can talk more about this faith walk.
Yes. Well, whenever you're ready, I'm here.
All right, sounds good. All right, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of another show. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate all you guys that shared the video as well. And as usual, in signing off, DeAndre and Lisha, know that Daddy loves you intentionally, but I also love you unconditionally. Until next week, peace.